All right, Shalom. First and foremost, before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Merchaha Kodash. The honors go out to the Apostle Elsgrave Millstone, who rule and teach well. Shalom Barakiam to you brothers and sisters out there. Or this brother Malachi from the Great Millstone Nashville camp. And Lord willing that this lesson is edifying to the hopefully elect. All right, I just wanted to get a few scriptures on, basically being content, being grateful, which, matter of fact, let me actually get that word. All right, so this is Edamon Line. This is the app. All right, they also have a website. App is very convenient. So this is the word content. All right, it says to rest or be satisfied, to give satisfaction to. All right, so it says to be satisfied. All right, what does it mean to be satisfied? Let's look that up real quick. Satisfied. Come on, man. Contented, pleased. Says content. Some of these were what the? Okay. Google is getting crazy, man. Basically, it means pleased, like you're grateful. Like, put it in a sentence, basically. There was a traffic jam, but I got my coffee with me on the way to work, so I'm content. I'm listening to a video on the way to work, and it's very edifying. It's lifting up my spirit, so I'm content. I might have lost $50, but at least we got camp today. I'm content. Like, even though in the midst of bad things are happening, you always look at the positive, because it's very easy to look at what you don't have. All right, it's always easy to do that, but you need to appreciate the things that you do have. Because I even remember this picture. Here, let me see if I can just pull it up real quick. Yeah, right here. You see at the top, I'd love to have a helicopter. That's my dream car. Look at that new car. If only I could afford a car. I wish I had a bike. It sure would be nice to walk. And then shit, you might have a paralyzed person thinking about him like at least he can wheel around. It just shows that you always got to be grateful. Appreciate the things that you have. Be content. Right now, it's easier said than done. We're in the flesh, and we're in Babylon, and Jake is always trying to be great and do great things and get great possessions. But we understand Micah 7:9. This is not a rest. We're here to lose carnally, but spiritually, we're winning. All right, we have this faith, this knowledge, which actually that's ties right into what I got right here. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. All right, scripture talk about how wisdom is above rubies. It says, and with all thy getting, get understanding. All right, and then remember, Isaiah 33:6. Wisdom and knowledge is going to be the stability of thy times. The strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is his treasure, roughly paraphrasing. So money ain't gonna save you, man. All right? Weapons, canned food, all that ain't going to save you. Now, if you want to prep, and get yourself a few things. You might get a bug out bag off Amazon. You might get, some water or canned food, whatever, is within in your spirit, leisure, if that's the right word, whatever you got money for, whatever, whatever's on your spirit. Okay. I personally got an Amazon bag in there, a bug out bag, but first of all, I'd be forgetting that I even got it. I'm going to be honest. It's my, not only me, but all of our main focus is getting right in the spirit. Now definitely if you want to, don't neglect it. If you want to get canned food or, you want to have carry a knife for protection, or have it in a backpack that you got against the wall, for during that time, or, maybe you want to have a firearm, And of course have it registered and legal, but for self-defense, okay, or maybe you want, some MREs, or maybe, you want extra water, maybe you want to buy a life straw, whatever. But at the end of the day, what's going to get you delivered and saved is Yahweh Shemel Shai, scriptures, your faith. Okay, because there could be there. I mean, look at the elites. They got the whole earth, and yet they're gonna get taken down and destroyed. All right, you got dudes out there that have 20 years worth of canned food, 15 firearms, a bunker, a whole bunch of blankets, all that, and he's still gonna be destroyed. But then you over there, you got a man that he believes on the Lord. He knows some scriptures. He's applying them to the best of his ability. He's gonna get saved, and he doesn't have anything, because the Lord said, "My servant shall eat, but you shall be hungry." All right, so let's see where I want to go first. Yeah, I get this. And especially when it comes to money. Now, if you can make more money, if you can better your situation, absolutely. And everybody should, try to save. Some will save more than others. Some, me personally, I'm not that good at saving. I'm working on it. I got a little bit of savings, but it's not a lot. But progress is progress. A step forward is a step forward. Okay? And that's just facts. A step forward is progression. As long as you're improving yourself and you're doing better, it's great. Okay? And that's what we all need to strive for in everything. We need to be well-rounded. Yahweh is all we can be. All right? But don't strive to be rich. But at the same time, you need to work. All right? If you don't work, you won't eat. If you're able to make more money or get more money from overtime or whatever, and it's not too much for you, anything, then do it. All right? You don't want to be lazy and you calling out 3 days a week. Like, damn. You don't want to put yourself in a tough situation, especially while society is still operating the way that it is. And now we can see that it's winding down. All right? But the grinding has not ceased as of yet. All right? We're still able to make money. So go ahead and take advantage of that. And especially if you can get some savings together, take advantage of that. Because what about if inflation hits? That money, maybe you saved 300, 500, maybe you got 1,000, and then hell breaks loose and you're able to get food for a little bit. Or maybe you're able to use it for something else. Or maybe the dollar crashes and you don't get to use none of that, but it was the thought that counted. Or maybe you used it before, or maybe the Lord had you use that savings and you helped the brother get out of a bind, or who knows. Okay? But regardless, we need to be content. All right? Some brothers will have more money than others. Some brothers will have a better house than others, a better car. Who gives a fuck? We're all striving for that same penny. At the end of the day, all this carnal stuff doesn't mean shit. All right? 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. It says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." Let me read that in NLT. It says, "Yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth." All right, back in the KJV. "For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out." Yeah, like Pharaoh, the pharaohs, they used to think that if they buried all their treasure with them, they'd have that in the afterlife. No, if you pass away, none of this is coming with you. All right, and then also reincarnation is in the Bible. You see? So not only is it not going with you to the spirit realm, it has nothing to do with your next life, which, we know we don't have another life, okay, because this is our last go-around. Yahweh Ratazar, we got, a few years, if that. We don't know how much time we got, but the time is short. And then Romans 13 and 11, all right, we're not getting reincarnated again. Right, but you could have been rich in the past life. You could have been, homeless in the past life. You could, but you didn't. You can't bring nothing with you. So you do what you can. You make the most with what you got. You be content, and focus on the spiritual things. All right, verse 8. It says, "In having food and raiment, let us be therewith content." So there's that word content again. All right, let me see what it says in the Greek. Maybe it gives us a little more. What is that? Archeo?
Strong's G 714. Archeo. Archeo.
archeo, to be possessed of unfailing strength, to be strong, to suffice, to be enough, to be satisfied, to be contented. Yeah, suffice, be sufficient. Beautiful. All right, verse 9, it says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. Like Yahushua said, it's hard for a rich man to enter in the kingdom. You had that example of that man that didn't want to, part some of his wealth, which it was ultimately just a test. All right, but best believe if you're somebody that has more money, the Lord is going to want you to help those that don't. Okay? Just like how if there's a brother that may have more free time, the Lord might use him to help other brothers, in his free time, as compared to a brother that's busy majority of the time. We all have things that we bring to the table, and we all have things that the Lord is using us for. Right? We all have gifts and talents and abilities and resources. Okay? And it's a beautiful thing. That's what makes us a body. Right? I can't ask my hand to walk for me. Right? And I can't ask my foot to grab a cup. So we all do different things, and we have to utilize these abilities and these resources for the benefit of the ministry and for one another. All right, because remember, we're not in a crab in a bucket spirit no more. All right, that was back in the world. We're not in that envious, covetous, bullshit mindset. All right, it says, and into many, well, actually, I just read that, which drown men in destruction and perdition for the love of money. See, and that's a key thing too, because a lot of people butcher that scripture and they say money is the root. No, money is not the root of all evil. The love of money, because the scriptures tell us that money is a defense. Okay? For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Okay? There's that. Let me get this. Philippians chapter 4, verse 11 to 13. It says, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Hamashiach, which strengtheneth me. All right, so, which, I feel like most brothers, maybe not every brother, but most brothers have had moments where they were down and they didn't have much money, at all, if any, and then we've had the opposite where you might have had a certain job or, a period of time where you had money and, you were able to buy things and do what you wanted for a period, not literally what you wanted, but I'm saying, you know what I mean? You were living more comfortably. Speaking personally, I've been in both. I've never been, downright homeless, sleeping on the street. Okay, but there's definitely been rough times, where money wasn't there, right? Where you had to transition to different houses and, you had to be on the move, and then there's been times where, there's money. And it's like, if I want to go get something good to eat today, I can. If something happens to my car, I can get it fixed with no problem. A brother needs help or, whatever. Maybe you want to take your lady to a hotel or what, there's times where you have money, there's times where you don't, everything in between, And the best state to be in is balanced. All right, you don't have too much money to where you're just fucking off, all right? But at the same time, you have enough money to where all the bills are paid. You're able to treat yourself here and there. You're able to save some. You know what I'm saying? It's really the best way to be, because then you're not too comfortable, but at the same time, you're able to balance out. You're not constantly, getting scared of getting evicted. You're not, if your car breaks down, you're not asked out. Which, really, the reality is your car breaking down, you can be asked out regardless because it depends on what it is. If your transmission gives out, you more than likely might be done for. Now if it's like a flat tire, then yeah, if you got $50 to $100, you could probably get it replaced, and be back up and running, as soon as possible. All right, but there's a lot of scenarios and all that, but the point is it's best to be somewhere in the middle. All right, you don't want to be rich, but you don't want to be broke as hell, to where you're sleeping on the sidewalk and You're eating, Cheez-Its that you found in the trash. You don't want to be in that position, and Yahweh forbid anybody is, but if there's a brother that is in that position, then best believe, the body's going to help him, right? So anyways, which I don't believe in. I hope nobody's in that position because, we help one another out, and we also have tithes. Camps have tithes. Like, that's what it's for. It's to help, when a member is down and out or struggling, situations, because situations do happen and they will happen, especially as we continue to dive into Jacob's trouble. Okay? But like, stated down here, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Hamashiach, which strengtheneth me. Anything's possible with the Most High, with Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bashem Shai. I'll get this. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 8 to 9. It says, remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. Lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. See, so it's good to be balanced, especially in this body. All right, because you fuck around and hit the lottery for $1 million, you might fall out. All right, if you catch too much hell and you lose your house, your car, your job, you got one shirt and a pair of underwear, you don't have no pants, you're just walking around the sidewalk, you might fall out. Okay? The Lord keeps you in a balance. Sometimes you'll be up more, sometimes you'll be down more, but you're always balanced. There's a balance to everything. All right? Sometimes you catch more hell, sometimes you might get a little blessing here or there. You see, the Lord got a perfect walk for every single one of us. Okay? But I don't want to be rich as hell, man. Not until the kingdom. When we got them new bodies, we can have all the riches there is, because we're going to know how to handle it. All right? This flesh is like it says in Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is desperately wicked. All right? You might think that you having $100,000, fall into your bank account tonight, you might think that you'll be good, but you don't know what you'll do. All right? You don't know how you're going to act. Okay? You can say, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to still do lessons. Yeah, I'm going to still go to camp. You don't know that. You have no idea. I don't even want to find out. Okay? No. Now, Jake will definitely take money. 10,000 or 5,000 that falls in your bank. Yeah, because you could use that quick and, shoot brothers some money and, fix your car up and pay the rent in advance and, but 100,000, you don't know. All right? You don't know. Now, if you do find yourself for some reason in that situation, then, maybe you can handle that. And definitely seek counsel whenever you're unsure. And even if you do feel sure, seek counsel. Just seek counsel with everything. Not literally everything, but, when the Spirit's on you, you'll know, man. All right? But that was been pretty much it. I had another one, but... Well, yeah, I'll get it real quick. Philippians 3:8 says, yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Hamashiach Yahushua my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Hamashiach. So everything outside of this truth is basically worthless, man. And you should be willing to sacrifice any and everything for this truth, for Yahweh Shemel Shai, for the brotherhood, you know what I'm saying? Which, of course, is easier said than done, but we're all going to have to sacrifice, which we've already we've all had to sacrifice, but we're all going to have to make major sacrifices in the coming days, because you're not taking that MOTB, that grain of rice, that's going to be a big sacrifice, because you're going to lose everything, right? But you need to count it all dung, you see? So, shit, even if you do have money right now, it ain't going to last. And if you don't have money, well, shit, maybe that's good. Because then in that day, it's going to be an easier transition for you. Who knows? Like I said, everybody got a different walk. Okay? But regardless, you're in a position to where you're going to continue to go. And just know too, Like it says in the book of Sirach 2, it's nothing, for the Lord to make a poor man rich or to change, which that's not in the second chapter of Sirach. What I was going to say, but that is in Sirach. But what I was going to say from Sirach 2 was be patient when you're in a low state, because a blessing might be coming your way. But then don't get too complacent, because just because you're building savings now, or, you might have a good job now, you don't know if you're going to have that job next month. Okay? You don't know. What if they go out of business, or, what if you get hurt? Who knows? All right? Everything is subject to change, but the only thing that ain't is this truth, these prophecies. So continue to seek Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, Matthew 6:33 above all things, and everything else will follow, man. All right? Where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. So Lord willing, that this lesson was edifying. Before I close, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Rakha HaKodash. The honors the apostles, that was a great millstone. Shalom.